if you're going to invest in a good set of watercolors. Once again, I believe I've said this before, but I'm gonna say it again. Whenever you are justifying a specific price, whenever you are making a commission, whenever you have a commission, you may want to take into consideration the fact that you are using a very high quality watercolors. And if you're using really high quality watercolors, you're more than welcome to charge whatever you want. Also, high quality paper matters. So if you are using either B paper, or if you're using very expensive arches or Strathmore, if you're using Nina paper, or if you're using Yupo paper, you may want to consider the price of that whenever you're pricing your final artwork to your client. It doesn't make sense to undercharge. So, and it's not that you're going to charge your client 100% of the cost of your palette. What you do is you think about how many times can I use this palette before I have to replace it, or replace a specific color. So there are a few colors that I use more. So the reds would be some of the colors that I would have to replace. The reds are usually pretty expensive in this particular brand. So I'm looking at between $14 and $17 per tube. And I have to keep that in mind whenever I'm doing an illustration. So if an illustration happens to have more red than blues, or if it was just black and white, I have to keep that in mind in order to depreciate my palette accordingly. Same goes for paper. Because number one, if I mess up the first one, I still have to finish that job. The cost of your material is something that you need to keep in mind whenever you're pricing yourself. It's not that you're going to charge your client $70 because you bought a $70 palette, but you need to think about how many times can I use this palette before I have to replace it. So if you decided that you can only use it 24 times before you have to replace it and buy a new one, then you have to divide the final price by 24. And whatever that number is, you add to the final price. Then you have the paper as well as the brushes. So you have to think about how often do I use this brush for work, and how many times do I have to, will it take for me to use it before I have to go and replace it. And that, again, that number gets added in. And at the very end, you think about how many hours have I spent on this illustration. And not everybody spends hours on illustration. It took me 16 minutes to do that illustration. Now, that doesn't mean that that it took me 16 minutes, that it takes me 60 minutes to learn it. It took me years to learn how to do this. I've actually been doing flowers for about 5 years. So keeping that in mind, you have to think about your years of experience and how quickly those years of experience have made you. So the fact that I can do in a flower illustration for 15 minutes, I have to price that accordingly in order to be able to make a profit. If I can get someone to agree to that particular price, then you're made. That means that you are in demand, and as an artist, you can ask for whatever price you want. Some artists are very good at creating things like this on a digital environment, and if you are very good at that, then congratulations, you actually skipped out completely on paper, brushes, paints, and all that other crazy stuff. But now you have to buy a $1,000 tablet. If you're buying an iPad, you're probably spending way more than that, and also an input device like a pen or an Apple Pencil, plus the software. So where I spent $150, maybe at most, someone who does it on a digital environment spent about $1,200 to $1,300. So you're looking at 10 times the amount of money for somebody who's a digital artist versus somebody who is a paper artist. Does that mean that one is worth more than the other? No, the final output is the same. You get an image of flowers. So you may want to consider that whenever you are investing for your business. So does it mean that one is worth more than the other? No, the same skill applies. You're using the same skill set, you're just using different tools. You have to look at a digital environment or digital software and applications as different tools, because watercolors are one tool, but you might have a pastel artist who's using chalk pastels or maybe oil pastels, and that is a different type of tool. You might have somebody that is using inks, another type of tool. And we don't call in art, we don't call that tools, we call that mediums. So these are different mediums that people use in order to do the same work. Just like you may have a cook that is very good at using a slow cooker, you may have another cook that is better at a gas grill, or you may have a cook that is very good at cooking things in a microwave. Are they doing something different? Is their food any better because it was cooked somewhere else? Probably, but that is all based on opinion. But that what they're doing is the same thing, and it has the same outcome. You get a plate of food. So you have to think about, what is it worth to you? Do you rather have a plate of food that came from the microwave or something that came from the grill? Do you rather have something that came from the stove or something that came from the oven? When you think about it on those terms, you're actually thinking a little bit more abstractly, because you're giving an opinion based on a medium and based on personal opinion, personal choice, preferences. So if you have a specific preference for a particular type of art, you're going to think that art is more valuable than, say, digital art. If you like ink art, you might not like digital art. Or maybe you like digital art and you do not like ink art. So think about that. Are your clients appreciative and prefer your preferred medium? Are they giving your medium the proper value? So give that some thought whenever you're pricing yourself.
The formula to pricing your work and time consists on several points. The custom material. How many times can you use your materials before you have to replace them? Your education. Whether you're self-taught, went to college, or took on an online course, these add value to you and your work. Your experience. The amount of time you spend on creating, either for yourself or a client, will determine your level of expertise, the amount of time you're likely to spend on a piece, and accurately estimate your worth. Level of difficulty. What is the skill level needed to perform the artwork? This usually refers to a specific skill set only a few artists have. Specialization. This is when knowing what your strong points in your skill set sets you apart from everyone calling themselves illustrators. Anyone can illustrate, but can they do it like you? Artist demand. This relates to the popularity or perceived value of the artist. If the artist is alive, the artist is usually a trendsetter and in high demand. Otherwise, the artist's value has a lot to do with whether or not they are alive.